Of all movies Disney wants to keep locked in the vault, Song of the South might be the most infamous. It's got talking animals, catchy songs, and a feel-good message. But the setting... This is where things get weird. This was a 1946 film that follows a kid named Johnny who sends to live with his grandmother on a plantation in the post-Civil War South. Not exactly the most welcoming place for a child, so naturally he decides to run away. That's when he runs into Uncle Remus, an older black man who works on the plantation. Now instead of stopping Johnny outright, he decides to play along with the idea of running away. And how does he do this? By telling him a story about a rabbit, a little trickster who probably also wants to run away from his problems. It's pretty clear. Running away won't solve anything. Which, fine, that's a solid lesson for kids. But here's the thing. Why is this a setting? Why is this wholesome, life lesson driven story set on a plantation where characters are just oddly content with their situation? It would be like if Disney decided to make a feel-good movie about when Castro took over Cuba being a minor inconvenience. Now I get it's a kids movie, so I wasn't expecting Huckleberry Finn, but Disney really chose a setting that raises a whole lot of more uncomfortable questions than just never address them at all. Uncle Remus isn't a slave, but the movie sure acts like his life on the plantation is oddly peachy. It's a bizarre mix of feel-good storytelling with a backdrop that absolutely does not fit. And let's talk about Uncle Remus for a second. He's a kind, wise, full of life lessons kind of character. He also kind of fits into that one character where he just uplifts the other protagonists and everybody else, without any real agency of their own. He doesn't have a family, doesn't seem to have any aspirations, and we barely know anything about his life outside of Johnny. His entire purpose in the film is just to teach a white kid valuable lessons before disappearing into the sunset. Literally. And here's where things get even more messier. The original Uncle Remus stories weren't a Disney creation. They were written by Joel Chandler Harris, a white journalist in the 19th century who collected African American folktales and put them into print. Now on one hand, these were oral traditions passed down by the enslaved people, and Harris helped preserve them. But on the other hand, his version was watered down for the white audience, stripping out any relatively complexity and leaving behind a world where formerly enslaved people just seemed weirdly happy. They really thought throwing in a few cartoon animals would make people forget about the whole happy slave thing. It's like trying to fix the movie Roots by adding animated raccoons. And I can't say much about the music, but considering the setting, let's just say I'm relieved that they didn't make Uncle Remus sing a song about how working for Master ain't so bad. So why did Disney even make this film? Well, back in the 1940s, Hollywood loved nostalgia for old South movies, so Disney decided to capitalize on this new trend by making a movie about slavery. Song of the South even back then got pushback. It was criticized by the NAACP, criticized it for its dangerously glorified picture of slavery aftermath. And while it wasn't outright banned, Disney kept it locked away for decades, never releasing it on home video in the US outside of a VHS release. So it never got ported to disc or Blu-ray or digital. And yet, despite all this, parts of Song of the South can still be found in Disney history. Like the rabbit and the bear from the movie become park characters on Splash Mountain, directly based on the film's animated sequences, until Disney finally decided to rebrand it in 2020. So while they want to erase Song of the South from their legacy, they've been profiting off it for years. At the end of the day, Song of the South is a relic of its time, one that Disney would rather pretend never existed, but ignoring history doesn't erase it. The film is complicated and messy and problematic, but also important to talk about because if we didn't, Hollywood just might try to sweep these issues under the rug again. I wonder how the behind the scenes was.